I think it's a very big question whether we should see anti-Semitism as sui generis, meaning that is the hatred or antipathy toward the Jew or towards Jews or towards Judaism, is it categorically different than the hatred of any people toward any other people? Do we see anti-Semitism as a part of a larger problem of prejudice and hatred that human beings have toward one another, which they probably have had toward the beginning of time? Or do we see it as something special? I think that Dr. Laitman is offering a theory that there's something sui generis about anti-Semitism, and it goes back to the Abrahamic origins and the idea of interconnectedness and the way in which people over time have had both difficult resistance toward that interconnectedness, and also the way Jews who carry that Abrahamic mandate have not expressed and exemplified that kind of interconnectedness through their experience as Jews and through Judaism. And again, I think that's a really fascinating way of thinking about it. But I would say, in terms of questions of solutions, is there a solution to anti-Semitism? No, I don't think there is. I don't think there's a solution to prejudice. I mean, I think that...
So that's the question.
Why? Why? There is an excellent solution to anti-Semitism. It is that Jews themselves will begin to follow that human connection that Abraham was talking about, love covers all crimes and so forth, rising above all of the conflicts, hatred, division between them. This is what is called crimes, that they will cover it with love, with greater connection, with adhesion with each other, and by that they will radiate that peace towards the world to a state called the final correction.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that, but that is very, very similar to the Christian message, because that was basically what Jesus was teaching in the gospel, right? As a Jew, as maybe an inheritor of the Abrahamic tradition, that the idea of loving the enemy, the idea of interconnectedness, is precisely what Christianity in its origins had basically professed.
We don't need to love the enemy. What we need to do is correct ourselves. Then we'll see that we actually don't have enemies, because our mutual hatred and conflicts, that is what births the enemies in the world towards us.
No, I understand that. And there is, by the way, there is a rendering of that message of Jesus, which is precisely what you said, that when we fix ourselves, we'll realize that we don't actually have any enemies. But in any event, I don't want to kind of get into that. It's a whole other thing.
To me, it doesn't matter if someone said this or said that. I myself didn't study Jesus, and I don't intend to, and many can write and speak in his name. What I'm talking about is what our inner Torah is actually about, what the internality of Kabbalah talks about from generation to generation to this day. This is what the book of Zohar talks about. This is what the ancient texts are talking about. And so that's irrelevant what Jesus has to say in that regards.
That's true. I think that in a way, and this actually speaks closer to it simply because of Rabbi Ashlag's relationship to communism, for example. I think that communism too makes that argument to some degree, and that's why I think that Rabbi Ashlag had so much sympathy toward communism, because he saw that it was a social manifestation of what he considered to be a Kabbalistic secret in a certain way. Now, I guess the question then we could ask is why, the fact that these different experiments at the solution to the problem of not only anti-Semitism, but the solution of inter-ethnic hatred, the solution of racial hatred, the solution of bigotry, never seem to actually be able to grow roots deep enough to sustain a civilization toward that goal. That human beings, and this goes back to the Kabbalah as well, in terms of the relationship between the Sitra Achra, the Yetzer Hara, all of those kinds of things, right? So we're always struggling with that challenge of the fallibility.
What we're actually struggling with is the human ego. That's the true meaning of the devil or the sitra achra, the other side, or all those terms. There's nothing more to battle with than the human ego. And if we manage to do it correctly through helping each other, we have to convince ourselves first that there is no other choice. It's either we win against our ego and begin to form a connection above that. That's what Abraham was talking about. That's what's called love covers all crimes. Or, as it says, this will become your burial place. One of the two. And so what I'm seeing is that we're in a state where we don't really have a choice. I used to write about anti-Semitism happening in America 15 years ago, about 15 years ago, as I wrote about the European Union coming to a crisis within 20 years. And these things, unfortunately, are happening, but it's not because I have some prediction spirit. It's because there's laws of nature that can certainly foresee and predict what's happening.